Rune Factory Frontier was developed by Neverland and published by Xseed. It's a great little title for the Wii that not many people got the chance to play. You play a character named Rune in a typical Japanese fashion. He has amnesia, and for some odd reason, he must find a wife, as he does in every game that appears. But I digress. The game is actually a lot of fun and should be enjoyed by those who are looking for a casual experience and, something more relaxing rather than just shooting people all day and, ripping the wings off of harpies. The game plays like a farm sim and also some dungeon crawler and some dating sim and some resource management. Well, okay, let's just say there's a lot to do in Rune Factory Frontier. There's fishing, there's forging, there's cooking, there's alchemy, there's festivals, there's making of armor and accessories. There's, just a ton to do in the game. And unfortunately, the only bad thing about all these things to do is that none of them are really too deep. They all kind of rely on the same system. A bar appears and you have to hit the button in the sweet spot to get a bonus item or hit it in the good spot just to complete the crafting skill. So while there is a lot to do, none of it's too deep, but it's still very enjoyable because it does feel different and fresh whenever you're doing it. But the main attraction of the game is farming, so you'll be going into caves that have different seasons about them. Like, so say there's a cave there where it's always springtime, so you can grow springtime vegetables. But of course, if you don't want to do any farming in the caves, there's also the field in front of your house. Like in most of the Harvest Moon series, there's always that field to plant your crops and sort of tend to them and everything like that makes money. The music is pretty nice. There's no toe tappers that you'll find yourself humming to yourself on your way to work or anything like that, but all in all, the music fits the game pretty well and should be mentioned. It's nice that there's a lot of sub-storylines as well, so there's things like if you're at a specific place at a specific time with a specific character, you'll be treated to a nice little cutscene about that character and everything like that. Unfortunately, this does lead to a lot of them where it feels like you've missed a lot, but all in all, it's really nice to have those kind of things in the game. There's a lot of RPG elements, as with the forging and creating your own equipment and everything like that, but there's also a leveling up of skills that use rune points. So your rune points is kind of your currency for everything you do. So if you use the watering can or the hoe or the axe or the sickle or something like that, it takes rune points to do that. Now, if you use the hoe a lot, eventually you'll start taking less and less rune points to use because you're leveling up that skill. It's not too deep, but it's definitely something that lends to the depth of the game. It really feels like a nice touch. The controls are actually really nicely mapped to the Wiimote and Chuck. They feel very natural. One of the good things is there is no forced waggle when it comes to the Wii's motion sensor, so you don't feel like you have to use that. And unfortunately, that rarely works well in any game. So fortunately, you can just get by with the buttons and the control stick and not have to worry much about anything else. Now, the gameplay is actually rather addictive and fun, so you'll find yourself saying one more day, and then I'll go to bed. There's been more than once that I've stayed up till the wee hours of the night playing this game, saying one more day, and then I'll be done, and I need to go to work tomorrow. So be prepared. If you're the kind of person that enjoys this casual type of gameplay, you can easily get addicted and lose some hours of sleep. Now, there are a few things to mention that I didn't like about this game. So, for instance, you can't permanently clear out any of the monster caves, so they have their own version of monster closets, which are just like these glowing balls of death that seem to spit out these monsters. So you can't really clear them out. So, say if you kill off one of these little monster closets, the next day it's going to be back. This leads to, you're really feeling like you didn't accomplish anything in that cave, so ultimately you just sort of run past them without even paying any attention to the monsters or the monster closet. And, it really kind of takes away from the feeling that you've made progress. Now, the visuals are a little murky, but that's sort of the case with any Wii game. We've been spoiled by the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and we've come to expect a certain level of fidelity and amount of quality in our graphics. And anytime you sort of pick up and load up a Wii game, you sort of have to make that concession. Now, is that fair to have to make that concession? That's a discussion for some other time. But really, if you're used to playing the HD, 720 and 1080p games of the PS3, 360, and PC, you're going to be let down a little bit by the graphics on this game. And the game really isn't without its points of confusion. Like, say, for instance, if you want to get the axe, it's not hanging in a tool shed somewhere. You can't buy it, you can't forge it, nothing like that. You actually end up having to get it given to you by a nun in a church, which is more than a little confusing. The Rune system is actually pretty confusing as well. Around the world, there's these little colorful runes floating around, and apparently they have a strong effect on whether you can grow crops or not. So about halfway through my second year, the first time playing, I noticed a lot of my crops were just withering and dying, and I couldn't figure out why. So I finally looked it up, and apparently there is a rune system in place. You go around and collect all of these runes with this collector thing that takes quite a bit of time to use, unfortunately, and you have to redistribute these runes. Now, there seems to be a deeper system with water runes eating earth Runes or Earth Runes, being able to eat both Fire Runes and Air Runes. I'm not quite sure what it is, but unfortunately it is fairly counterintuitive and doesn't really add any fun to the game, but it is a necessity if you hope to grow crops. Now there is something worth mentioning. There is a newer version of Rune Factory out there. It's Rune Factory Tides of Destiny, and you may be asking, why shouldn't I get that version? Well, to be honest, the combat is deeper, which is great. The visuals are better, even though if you're playing on the PS3 version, you can clearly tell it is a Wii port. And it has a very engaging overworld. I mean, you ride on the back of a giant golem and pull islands out of the friggin' water and then explore those islands. That's a pretty cool premise. But unfortunately, Rune Factory Tides of Destiny kind of took out one of the main things that makes Rune Factory. They completely changed the way the farming works, which is really annoying because Rune Factory should be looked at as Harvest Moon, but with dungeon crawling. Harvest Moon, but with forging. Things like that. Basically, Harvest Moon is supposed to be the cake and the Rune Factory part is supposed to be the icing. Now, they've sort of just did away with the farming the way it is, and that really is kind of annoying and disappointing. I mean, you still plant things by just like waving a magic wand and then monsters take care of the rest, which really kind of takes this somewhat enjoyable and therapeutic process and just completely threw it out the window and screwed it up. Now, if you're the kind of person that's always been interested in the Rune Factory series, but the farming aspect of it has really kind of turned you off of it, then maybe Tides of Destiny is for you. But for those of you looking for like a casual experience and you'll really enjoy that sort of therapeutic, slow grind kind of thing where it's very rewarding in the end, but you sort of have to tend to something, then Rune Factory Frontier is definitely for you. All in all, the game is a lot of fun. I've played it for many, many hours, actually hundreds at this point, and I really don't plan on getting tired of it anytime soon. I still boot it up every now and then. It's not like it's something that I play every single day, all day long. But it's one of those things that if I'm feeling the need to relax, if I feel like I want to unwind, Rune Factory Frontier is definitely a sanctuary for me to go. You should definitely give it a try if you're interested, and you won't be disappointed if you enjoy this kind of casual gameplay. Rune Factory Frontier definitely gets a big thumbs up.